Hi, this is Marek from Solo. Today I want to show you a game called Stonespine Architects, a game published by Thunderworks Games, and thanks for sending it for review. And this is another game set in the role-player universe, the universe created by Thunderworks Games. But this time this is a kind of abstract card-laying game where you will create a dungeon. Basically, you will create a dungeon with different monsters and different traps, and you will try to score as many points as you can. It's a game from 1 to 5 players with a solo variant where you play against an opponent. Let me show you how the game plays, and then I will tell you what I think about it. This is how the game looks like during a multiplayer game. The solo mode works a little different. I will talk about it a little later. Here is the main board where you will track priority, gold. There is the gold card that each player can try to score at the end of the game. Market cards that allow you to buy additional tokens for your dungeon. Here are some challenge cards that player can try to claim at the end of each round. And each player gets an entrance and exit for the dungeon, a dungeon frame, and here, this is the player area. Each player will try to construct the best dungeon. The dungeon will contain exactly 16 cards at the end of the game, 4 rows and 4 columns. Each round of the game, there are 4 rounds, as divided into 2 stages. The first part of the game is the drafting stage, where you will draft dungeon cards from your hand. You will add those cards to the dungeon, and then you will pass the remaining cards to other player. After 4 turns, when you add exactly 1 row of dungeon cards to your dungeon, this stage of the round ends, and you will be able to buy additional tokens and claim the challenge cards. At the start of the game, each player also gets this blueprint. It shows you how the dungeon should look like when the game ends, and the more elements match on the blueprint and in your dungeon, the more points, the more stars you will earn at the end of the game. So you have to look at this. There is also a common goal card. At the end of the game, the player with most goblins gets 15 points, the second player 9, and the last one 5. So this is the goal card for each all player will score. There are also these challenge cards. At the end of the first, second and third round, the players will take one of those challenge cards, and these cards will give each player additional points at the end of the game. So you will get points from the blueprint, from goal cards, and from challenge cards as well. For example, gain 3 reputation for each kobold in single column of chambers in your dungeon. They are very different. This is a deck of challenge cards. New challenge cards appear here at the start of the first, second, and third round. So, when it's your turn, it's very easy. You have these cards in your hand. You have to choose one of those cards and add it to your dungeon. You don't have to add cards from left to right, but you need to add all of them in one row. So in the first round to the first row, in the second round to the second row, etc. They have different things here. This is the type of the card. Like this is a cave, and this is like a stone area, and this is cave area. You have different, sometimes monsters, sometimes traps, sometimes chests. The chests give you gold. Different additional, monsters and stuff in your dungeon. The important thing is that all the symbols of monsters, traps, types of rooms only really matters depending on the goal and challenge cards that you acquire, and this is important for the blueprint card. Otherwise it doesn't matter, because the stone chambers can be adjacent to cave chambers, and they have always some kind of entrance and exit. It doesn't have too much when you add it to the dungeon. If the areas For example, if you place it like this, so you can enter here and leave here. This is like a path. This is better for the endgame story, but it doesn't have to match when you add it to the dungeon. When the round ends and you have 4 cards in a row, the row is complete, you have to calculate your gold. It's the number of gold coins at the bottom of each card in a row. So 3, 5, 3 and 2, it's 13. So I will have 13 gold. The next player does the same. Let's say the second player has got 11 gold. And now, because I have most gold, I can spend my gold to buy this additional tokens. The number of market cards and challenge cards depends on the player count, but here, for example, I can spend 9 coins to get these 2 tokens. When I get them, I have to add them to my dungeon. Each dungeon card has got 4 spots where you can add stuff. Some things are already printed on the card and some things can be added through the market cards here. So I can spend gold to add it to my dungeon. Let's say I do it, I spend 9 to add it here, 30 minus 9 is 4, I spend my gold. The next player can do the same. Let's say this player spent this to add something, this for example the dungeon, and now I can continue spending my money or I can pass. If I decide to pass, I will take one of the available challenge cards. I will take, for example, this card, add it to my play area, so the second player has got less choice. And so the game continues for 4 rounds. When the game is, when the 4 rounds are over, you have to calculate your score, and you will get points from the goal card here, from all the challenge cards that you gathered during the game, from the priority here, because the first player always that passes in each round goes to the first spot on the priority track, and when the game ends, the player on the top, on the leftmost space gets 9 points, the second 6, the third 3. So for this you get points. You will get points from your chamber, because some cards here, they have stars printed on them, and some stars can be added through these tokens here. So you have to calculate those points as well. You also have the blueprint. The more areas in the dungeon match the blueprint card, the more points you will get. And finally, you will also get points for each dungeon, for each chamber that is connected to exit and to entrance. So if you have an entrance, you will track this path here, and you will get 1 point for each room connected with the entrance, and then you will count rooms connected with the exit, and you will also add those points. And the player with most points wins the game. So it's basically very easy. Each round you start with adding 4 cards to your dungeon, then there is this market phase where you can buy additional tokens, you can claim the challenge cards, and the game continues. When you play solo, it plays a little different, because you will not use this part of the board, but you will use the second part here. It also has got the gold card, but you don't have priority, you will just track your gold. And in the solo mode, you will use the special deck of cards. This is your opponent, Jael. There are cards for your opponent, and at the start of each round, you will reveal 1 card from this deck, and this deck will tell you how many points, how many gold Jael will have at the end of the round. If you have less points than he will remove the tokens from the 2 spots, and he will also discard the lowest numbered challenge from the 3 cards displayed. If you have more, you have the priority and you can buy whatever you want. Each Jael card also tells how many points JL will score for this card at the end of the game, and how many points he will score for, here in this example, for example, for the set of 2 these monsters. Or he can score for 2 points for each of these monsters. The different thing is also that at the start of each turn, you have you start with 5 cards. You will take 1 card and add it to your dungeon. Let's say I will add this card. Then you will pick 1 card for the next turn, and you will discard remaining cards. If any of the cards that you discard has the symbol that is shown on Jael card, you will give those cards to Jael, to your opponent, and he will score for these cards at the end of the game, for all the symbols, monsters, traps, etc. Next turn, you have 1 card left from your previous turn, and you will draw as many cards as you have empty spaces. So now I have 3 cards. I have 4 cards, 3 spots. Again, I will choose 1 card. Let's say I will add this card, like this, and I will look at the symbols shown here, and I will remove this card. Some cards I will discard, and some cards I will give to my opponent. At the end of the game, I have to calculate the points for myself, I have to calculate the points for Jael, and who's got more wins the game. This is how you play the game solo. Let's go to the summary. So now you know how to play Stonespine Architects, more or less. This is not a complicated game. What are my pros? Fantasy team is always a pro for me. I like fantasy board games. So when I see a fantasy game, it's always a pro. I like that there are many ways to score points in this game, because you have this schematic of your dungeon that you randomly get at the start of the game. You have the individual goals that you can acquire at the end of each round. There is this common goal on the board. You score points for the rooms that are connected to entrance and exit of the dungeon. Many ways to score points. The gameplay is quite fast. You will only place 16 cards in your dungeon, so it will not take a lot of time, even if you play with more players. If you play with more players, you draft the cards and each person adds 1 card to the dungeon, so it plays really fast. I like the variety in this game because you have drafting, so you can draft cards, you have the goals that are placed on the you can say market board, and players race to getting the goals that they want to acquire. You have this market with different tokens, with traps and monsters, the hidden passages that you can add to your dungeon, so it's quite fun. And I like that this solo mode includes automa. The automa is, you can say, a little random, because it gets the card. Sometimes it gets the card that you discard each turn. It depends, how the cards are shuffled and so on. But I always prefer playing against opponent than just playing to beat your own score. The automa has got, I think, 2 difficulty levels from what I remember, so it's nice that they designed automa instead of just making beat your own score abstract game. What are the cons of this game? The theme is here. I mean, it's a role-player universe game and fantasy game, but it's only on the cards. You cannot really feel the theme of this game. When you play it, it could be easily replaced with anything, like, I know, placing forest cards with different mushrooms and fruits. So don't expect a very thematic game in the role-player fantasy universe. In this game, it's hard to say who's got how many points, because there are so many things that you have to think about when you place your own dungeon cards, all the goal cards and the ways to score points. So it's not really possible to focus on other players' dungeons. So basically, you discover who won when the game ends. And sometimes when I play abstract games, I like to see what other players are doing, because I can take some tiles or cards from them. And here you have to focus on your own dungeon, because there are a lot of things that you have to plan. So the third con is also connected with it, because you have You have a lot of goals, you have a lot of ways to score points. It's cool because it adds variety to the game, but sometimes you may have like the analysis paralysis in the game, because when you place a card, it will score, give you more points from one goal, but it will, you know, mess up with other goal. So a lot of ways to score points, and a lot of planning and thinking how to place the cards in your dungeon to fulfill as many goals as you can. Basically, if you like abstract games, I think you should try Stonespine Architects. It's not a groundbreaking abstract game by any means, but it plays really fun, and I had fun playing it. If you like fantasy game, then you definitely should try it. As I said, even though it's not a great groundbreaking game, I always prefer playing abstract games when I have a fantasy theme, and building a dungeon with monsters and traps is it's a lot of fun for me. It's more fun for me than placing forests and meadows with butterflies and reindeers. So if you like fantasy theme and if you like abstract games, this one is quite clever with all the different goals and ways to score points. You should definitely try to play Stonespine Architects. Just don't expect a game with some story and heavy theme that you can feel while playing it. Click the like button if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, visit me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. You will find links in the description of the video. Thanks for watching, see you next time, bye.